Hello, welcome to tonight's very special episode of Dice and Dudes. Tonight I'm doing something a little bit different. We're not playing a game. Tonight I'm going to tell you guys 12 things you need to know about next week's upcoming Guns of Erroll campaign. Now, first off, I'm excited to start this campaign, as is everyone else. We've hired a professional artist to get us some great pictures made up of our people. We're going to have some posters and some other goodies coming your way. Really trying to pull out all the stops on this one. I hope you guys can join us for this journey. And I hope you guys have as much fun on it as we're going to have on it, because it's going to be a wild one. Now, first off, this is a homebrew world, and this world is going to be different than our previous campaign. Our previous campaign was much more of a high fantasy style game. In the third game session, they had heard the name of Count Strahd von Zarovich, and they had heard how evil he was. And that went through the entirety of the campaign up until 18th level when they finally defeated him. Knowing who your bad guy is very much the Tolkien way of doing it, and we're going to go about this one a little different. This one is going to be much more informed by player choice and player action. Player agency is going to play a very big role in this campaign. Now, first off, the tone and attitude of the Guns of Erroll is a blend of medieval D&D fantasy with Wild West tropes and a sprinkle of steampunk for flavor. Alongside horses and knights, you're going to find 6 gun-wielding bandits trying to rob an iron rail, or a game of Dead Man's Hand erupting into a bar brawl. While our previous campaign was more classic fantasy, this one is very much a blend of my own style of fantasy. Number 2, this is a world where old magic is dying and new magic is rising. The days of the studious wizard alone in his tower delving into the secrets of the cosmos is almost forgotten. Now, the blending of magic and technology is on the rise. Elementally powered iron rails and airships crisscross the land. Galleons are no longer but tethered to the wind, as water elementals propel them through the water. Excuse me. Even the simplest of trades has been made much more efficient with the advent of Accium. Magic has become such an everyday part of life, many could not hope to live without it. Number 3. Erroll is a land of opportunity. It has been built upon the bones of the past, and those bones are deep. Alongside the trials and tribulations of an ever-expanding frontier are the secrets that still lie in forgotten places, waiting for brave adventurers to rediscover them. For every bandit outlaw to bring to justice, there's an antique dealer looking to purchase the next big thing. Now, number 4. The 30-year rebellion has ended, and the kingdom of a menace won. Sort of. Now, too long for what we're going to do here, but you guys will find out much more about this in the future. But the kingdom of a menace once spanned almost the entire width and breadth of Erroll, but civil war erupted, facilitated by the country of Southgate, or the state of Southgate. Now the Civil War has been over for 6 years. Spanning 30 years of time, it has been over now for 6 years. And the world is a very different place. A menace may have won the war according to the treaties that were signed, but it is a shadow of its former self. And now, a menace seeks, now referred to as the United Confederates of a menace, or the United Confederation of a menace. They seek to regrab power that they lost. And while the other regions of Erroll still claim fealty to them, for many of them it is but lip service. So this is a land of ever-changing politics and intrigue. Number 5 is more about the Confederation of a menace. Ronded Lascaric was the last king of a menace, and is beloved by his people, especially the people of the South. His first act as king was to sue for peace. Alongside Rahil, the new patron of light, he was successful. His last act as king was to create a Congress of Representatives from each region of Erroll, and end the monarchy that ruled for nearly 500 years. He has also taken a vow of celibacy and will father no children, so the Lascaric line ends with him. Number 6. The Conquered, the lands outside Amenas. Amenas extends from the region of El Paul to Nalara, Aramark, Melonis, Ascani, Dwemin, Telek, and Silik. Most of these southern regions are outside of their purview, though they still send their spies and associates to try to bring them back to heel under the Confederation. But there are still some of the old ways that run deep in the south. Tethys especially, where the campaign is going to begin, still holds on to the old ways when it comes to the rule of law. Slavery is abhorrent to the kingdom of Amenas and the lands beyond. But Tethys pushes those boundaries as far as they possibly can towards indentured servitude. Should make for some very interesting situations coming up in play. Number 7, the old world fighting the new. Alongside Tethys, you have Southgate, a region where most of the fighting of the Civil War happened, in the Hilt, the area between Southgate and Silik itself. Southgate is scarred very much by the war, and they still hold on to old grudges, as Silik does to the north. High Mist is still very distrustful of other people coming into their lands. An entire region of people had to flee as there was no one to protect them. Now that area is referred to as the Dusty Meadows, as life does not grow there, be it people or plant. The Wildervin of this region have made themselves known. Wildervin is a term that encompasses the former elves that were one of the first people living in Erroll, and a great many of them that chafed from these invaders of the east coming to their lands. The Wildervin still hold quite a bit of power, especially in the region of Urkaro. They have not traveled beyond Haven's End en masse in quite some time, but should they do so, the southern regions, including Tethys and Golden, would be in a great deal of trouble. Number 8, the guilds. Now, in this new world, while government power wanes, the power of the guilds continues to grow. Now, if you are not a member of the guild, you will not work in that field. They will starve you out, if they have to, resort to other less subtle methods to make sure you fall into line. There are 11 guilds that are heralded as the most powerful within Erroll. You'll find out a lot more about them in the coming weeks. Needless to say, they're not to be trifled with, and even the Kingdom of Amenas and the leaders of each other region are very wary about their dealings with them, and take any deal that they make with them they deal with it with quite a bit of scrutiny. Number 9, the Night of Stars Fall. The Night of Stars Fall changed Erroll forever. Years ago, Erroll used to be a land that ran parallel to a great many others. The Feywild, a realm of fey magic and nature and wild magic, would touch Erroll in various places, creating bridges across the material plane and theirs. A bridge between Erroll and the Feywild. Same thing with the Shadowfell. Almost a kind of twisted copy of Erroll, but darker, more dangerous. But still, the Shatterkai people there would have dealings with those in Erroll. The Night of Stars Fall saw a great many of those bridges collapse. Other new ones have opened, a great many that remain undiscovered. It changed everything, including the fall of the gods. In Erroll, the known gods live upon the material plane, as the celestial plane was destroyed. Civil war that broke out on Erroll destabilized the cosmos. Taking advantage of this, demons and devils attacked the celestial plane. The queen and mother of the gods, Sabbath, sacrificed herself to destroy the celestial plane and the demons that were trying to take it over, dealing a great blow to the abyssal and infernal planes, but at the same time changing the cosmos as we know it. Where she fell, it created the astral sea, which is now a new bridge between realms, one that remains very much unexplored and waiting for brave folk to set on that path. Number 10 is about Achium. Now, Achium, in the simplest terms, is the distilled physical manifestation of magic. In the old days, a wizard would grab some bat guano and some sulfur, roll it in the ball, say some magic words, throw it, and boom, a fireball would come out. And that was amazing. But it took years of study to get there. Well, some enterprising folk discovered that in certain areas of the Sea of Light, water that turned into silt after drying in the sun left behind a strange substance that was very volatile. They learned how to mold and use this substance to create things such as firearms, to bind elementals into various objects, to give them sentience and the ability to move, as well as create things such as the iron rail, airships, firearms, ever-burning light. All sorts of new inventions that have made life easier in Erroll, have made it much more easy in the big cities. Even in some of the smaller areas, Achium is used in almost all walks of life. If someone weaves you a coat, there's a good chance that they weave Achium into it to make that leather just a little stronger. Maybe someone uses Achium to help heat water faster. That way they can do their job quicker. Or a blacksmith attempting to use Achium to make horseshoes much stronger in the forging, or perhaps a blade. The problem is, Achium, in its purest form, that used for things such as firearms or ingestible magical items or oils used on weapons, has a very addictive component to it. Those who are weak-willed can succumb to these desires and fall into a very bereft existence where they slowly spiral down into their own destruction, as many who become addicted to Achium do not make their way out of it, which has given rise to Achiomancers, people who willingly subject themselves to the potential to become addicted to the substance in order to strengthen this resistance to it, to learn how to use Achium in a myriad of ways, much more interesting ways. And every class has the ability to use Achium in various ways that you guys will be able to see during the game. If interest is there, I will make up a list of this once you guys see some of this stuff, and I'll have a compilation of those things ready for you in the near future. But right now, that's going to have to take some time because I've got a lot on my plate currently. Number 11 is dueling. We will have a dueling mechanic within this game. Now, in the beginning, I thought about a simple dice roll. You know, they have a dueling modifier, NPC has dueling modifier, roll a die and see what happens. But to me, that's less interesting. When you think of the Wild West, what's one of the first things you think about? To me, it's poker. One of my favorite movies is Maverick. And Maverick is all about poker. Love that movie. So I thought, why not incorporate poker cards into the game? Now, there's other systems that use poker cards for things like initiative, so I couldn't really use that without stepping on some toes. So I created a system of dueling using cards. PCs and NPCs will have a dueling modifier, and we will play a modified game of Texas Hold'em where a modifier matters, as well as having that gambling modifier if they wish to simply just try to make some money on the sly, whether being slippery with their play or maybe just being very good at playing cards. But you'll see a dueling mechanic within this game. Not every game session, but you will definitely be seeing it when it matters most. And I hope you guys find it as exciting as we do, and I can't wait for you guys to see it. Last thing I'm going to talk about is the people of Erroll. That is number 12. People of Erroll are a vastly different people than in most fantasy worlds. In the South especially, you will not find much in the way of racial disparity. They don't really care. They've been through wars. There are creatures in the night that could steal a family and never see them again. The color of somebody's skin doesn't really factor into who or what you are. So your race doesn't dictate the circumstances of your birth or the circumstances of your life. You're much more empowered, especially in the South, to be who you are. Your character is what dictates who you're going to be, less so your race. In the southern areas, the human population still reaches about 60% in most areas, but that's 40% of the non-human races, including things such as bugbears, hobgoblins, goblins, kenku, things of this nature. In the north, that ratio is much closer to 90% towards humans. They're a little stickier about their racial business up there than they are in the South, but they're still not, you're not going to find roving bands of hate groups that are trying to wipe out a particular people, especially not in the South. There is an exception to this, though. The Wildeven that I mentioned before, these old elves, these barbarians, they decided that they were not going to let humans come in and take their lands. Many of them did join a menace. They saw the technological advances and how much easier life could be with a menace as an ally and joined them. But a great many others decided to fight against them. Beyond the edges of the map, the Wildeven hold sway. In the south, a large nation of Yanti constantly sends small bands of skirmishes up to the north, fighting against the areas of Southgate and some of Tethys. Urkaro is the largest collection of known Wildeven, and that area of the map, only mountains are known. There's a vast jungle within Urkaro, but no human has ever entered and returned. Now, the Wildeven are not completely xenophobic, and they will allow other races into their midst. In a Wildeven tribe, you will discover bugbears and hobgoblins and goblins and disillusioned humans and half-elves and Goliaths and other things. But once you enter into a Wildeven tribe, there is no leaving. You leave with your blood. Because of this, there are a great many people who view elves, or Eleven, very distastefully, very distrusting towards those people. It is the one group of people who does struggle more than others with racial disparity. But when there are elves coming into your town and raping and killing people and stealing people away into the night, it's hard to look at your neighbor who's an elf and be able to just completely disconnect that. But Eleven are still viewed as worthwhile members of society and are very much taken in, especially those that have turned away from the Wildeven ways and have entered into the fold of a menace or the other areas. Well, I thank you all very, very much for joining me. I know this was a little long-winded and there's a lot of information, but that's 12 things you need to know about the Guns of Erroll campaign. We're only scratching the surface here, and there's a lot more to cover. If you guys have any questions for me, anything that I can answer, go ahead and leave a comment on this video, or hit us up on our Facebook page, that's Dice and Dudes, or on our Instagram or Twitter accounts, that's Dice and Dudes and Dice and Dudes. We'll have links to our to our accounts in the description of the video. God, I can't talk. In the description of the video. It has been a long couple of weeks. I have been painting for 8 hours a day and then working on D&D for the other 8 hours a day. So it's been a lot. But we're going to have a whole lot of surprises for you guys. Next Wednesday, the 17th at 7 p.m. Mountain Time, we're going to be starting this up. We've already finished all the 0 sessions. Everybody's super excited. Cannot wait to get back to the table and have a grand old time. We hope you guys will join us. Please like and subscribe our YouTube channel if you haven't already. Share us on Facebook. Let's try to get the word out. Try to get as many eyeballs on this as we can. This is going to be something unique, and I hope you guys like it. Well, I've taken up enough of your night, and frankly, I need to go take a nap. So everybody, remember, keep rolling them dice. Good night.